You probably remember the mess that was Australia's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. You know the one where police and military were on the streets telling you when and where you could go, all for your own good, of course, to prevent you from getting sick. Where you couldn't sit in a restaurant unless you'd taken the government-mandated injections, and where those who refused to comply simply lost their jobs. Australia, a shining beacon of free and open democracy, right up until the moment it isn't. Anyway, following that authoritarian fever dream of a pandemic response, the powers that be decided, in their infinite wisdom, to establish the so-called Australian Centre for Disease Control, the CDC, which only just became a permanent standalone agency on the 1st of January. Because as we all know, once there is a new government office and a shiny new acronym involved, everything will be perfectly under control and you won't have a single thing to worry about. According to their website, they are there to protect Australia from public health threats through disease surveillance, expert analysis and trusted information. Because as we've learnt, as long as you put your absolute faith in the experts, everything will be A-OK and definitely won't go sideways again. Speaking of experts, the head expert is the inaugural Director General, Professor Zoe Wainer. Thank you, the viewer who highlighted a lot of this information. On their official Facebook page, they even state that she is the leader of the experts. So she certainly knows all there is to know about disease control and management. They state, "We're so excited to see where Zoe leads us." Which is comforting because it almost sounds like even they don't know where she's taking us. So where does the lead expert wish to take us? Well, according to a recent article by The Australian, new CDC head vows to rebuild trust, engage vaccine skeptics. A noble goal, truly. We're all going to be brought back together to make sure we're lined up and ready for our next round of jabby jabs. But apart from vaccination, what does the head expert believe in? What is her background? Well, according to a recent article by The Guardian, I jumped at it. Australia's new CDC chief on trust, misinformation and never being surprised by a health threat. A little bit of trivia for you. Professor Wainer's parents actually started the country's first public abortion clinic. Because as we know, the best way to prove you're dedicated to saving lives is to come from a family that pioneered the most efficient way to end them before they are born. I'm sure that will go down a treat with the very people she's trying to re-engage. In the article, they reinforce that she just wants to keep Australia safe. But of course, in the current climate, you can't lead a major government body unless you subscribe to the latest progressive dogma. And that means ensuring Indigenous Australians are at the forefront of literally everything you do. The CDC's core focus will be on a concept that sounds vaguely mystical called One Health. They describe it as an approach that recognises the health of humans, domestic and wild animals, and the wider environment are linked and interdependent, and that experts across these sectors must collaborate if disease is to be prevented and controlled. And who are the experts for this? First Nations people, of course. According to Wainer, it's why collaboration with First Nations people and organisations will be critical to the CDC's work. She claims, "My understanding from speaking to many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people is that they've understood that deep connection between land, water, climate, people and animals for tens of thousands of years." So apparently, possessing the correct lineage suddenly imbues you with tens of thousands of years of specialised medical knowledge. Okay, this is where I stop being sarcastic and start being blunt. What a load of BS. Exactly how does a person's ethnicity give them tens of thousands of years of knowledge? It doesn't. If you have an Aboriginal person who grew up in the back streets of Melbourne and a Chinese person who grew up in the same street, they both know exactly the same amount about ancient connection to country. If the Chinese lady went to university and studied Indigenous history, she'd know more than the Aboriginal lady who didn't. It's like assuming every Aboriginal person can play the didgeridoo. They can't. Only those who have put in the years of practice can. For the CDC Director General to suggest that ethnicity alone grants you innate, expert-level scientific status, so much so that you are somehow critical to the modern control of infectious diseases, then we've officially left the realm of medicine and entered the realm of mythology. You may as well be telling us that the rainbow serpent is going to be drafting the next pandemic policy. Of course, the CDC is into everything woke. They've spent their time promoting celebration kits for the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras because apparently national health security now involves the government reminding you to pack your dental dams in condom-safe lube. As you can tell, I have full faith in our brave, new, totally impartial CDC Director General to make sure that future pandemics are handled with the same rigorous scientific standards of Aboriginal folklore and 10,000 years of innate medical knowledge. How about you?